And what I wanted to talk about was virtue, okay? Because I think this is an oft misunderstood subject. And I think that people these days have either unrealistic expectations as to what they should want or what should be requirements for a mate or a friend, as opposed to, just, ran into this guy at a bar. Yeah, we had some drinks and hit it off. Now he's my friend. Or, oh, I bumped into this chick. She had a nice rack and, boy, did we really hit it off. And I banged the shit out of her that night. Wow, yeah, she's so great. I'm in love. Okay, so I think that people don't have realistic criteria in regards to creating a stable relationship. I don't know too many people who met abroad, banged them, and then 5 years later were still together. It seems like these types of people have a really hard time creating long, stable, meaningful relationships, whether it be with a woman or a man or a woman in regards to having a friend. Okay, so whether it be friends or whether it be lovers, I think people really, for the most part, now I'm sure there's some of you out there who understand what's required, what you want, what you're looking for in a friend and in a life mate. But I think the majority of you don't. Because, a lot of you grow up with single mommies. What the hell do they know? If they knew anything about how to find a good long-term stable relationship, they wouldn't be single mothers, right? So they can't teach you a goddamn thing. Daddy's gone because she's a cunt and she had nothing that, he found in any way, shape, or form virtuous, and he really didn't know what to look for either because he got with her. So, a lot of clueless people, the blind leading the blind. There's been too many degrees of separation between people who knew this stuff and the people now who don't. So, a lot of brainwashing, a lot of indoctrination, a lot of broken families because of bad ideas like feminism that broke the links between the people who knew. And now you get the people who don't. And they're running around like chickens with their fucking heads cut off. They don't know how to find good people. They don't know how to find good friends. They don't know how to find good life mates. The knowledge is seemingly gone, at least for them. Well, that's why I'm here. Well, that's why philosophers exist, right? To keep this knowledge alive, to help people find the truth. And that's why I'm here. So let me explain to you, first of all, how you find a good friend. And many of the things that you'll look for in a good friend will be the same for a good life partner. And also the way that you go about finding, as far as the criteria, the methodology with which you will use to find a life mate and a friend are exactly the same. Okay? So it's all about virtue. All right? Now this is the key word. Virtue. Now what is virtue? And what's the difference between a trait and a virtue? Now, I want to get into that. I'm very big about defining one's terms. So what's a virtue? Well, a virtue is a positive characteristic about somebody that they have endeavored, meaning positive. They've made real efforts to develop these characteristics of self to a point where you could define them as such. For example, let's say kindness, okay? So kindness doesn't, just happen, right? It's something that's learned. It's something that is nurtured. It's something that grows over time. It's something that people learn as a positive attribute, something that will help them in their daily lives. But at the same time, they'll also learn to temper that kindness, because if they're too kind, they can be taken advantage of. So they are characteristics of self that come about through nurturing and understanding the positives, the goods that they will bring about in your life. They're about self-development, recognizing those things that will best serve you in your life in a positive manner, that you have made real steps to develop within you. It's not just something that you had. Oh, blonde hair. Ooh. That's not a virtue. Oh, beauty. No, that's not a virtue. Beauty is not a virtue. It's not something you're born with, right? It's something that you actively pursue and develop over a lifetime, because you recognize the value and you value these characteristics of self. So those are virtues, okay? They're not traits. They're things that people work to develop over time about themselves. And it's very important that you understand what virtue is and how to recognize it, okay? And what is not virtue? Well, intelligence, okay? Intelligence is not really a virtue, okay? He's smart. Well, high IQ people, generally speaking, don't have a lot of trouble in life compared to non. I mean, that's generally speaking. Of course, you have some high IQ people that don't manage to find their way in life. They've had difficulties. Maybe they had a bad upbringing. Regardless, but they have a hell of a lot more options than people with lower IQs. And so, if they don't have some kind of impediments early on, it's not too hard for them to essentially, find their way in the world in regards to making a living and such. Intelligence is not a virtue, right? It's something you're born with, just like physical appearance. It's not something you work to acquire. Virtues are things that you have worked to acquire over a lifetime, okay? So, your height, not a virtue. So women running around saying, oh, I need a man that's at least 6 feet tall, right? So this is 6 feet, and if you're 5'11", this is how she sees you. You're down here. You can't see my hand. She sees you as very, very short if you're not at least 6 feet. You're 1 inch shy. Oh, my God, he's a midget. So that's not a virtue, right? And so women are looking for the wrong things in men. Weight, intelligence, bust size, skin color, cock size. None of these are virtues. These are just character traits that come about purely by accident of genetics. There's nothing virtuous about these things, okay? Nothing whatsoever. And if you try to base a relationship on these things, well, guess what? Whether it be a friendship or whether it be a relationship that's deeper, like a pair bond, which seems to be impossible these days because of all the women riding the cock carousel, it's not going to work. It's not going to last. Excuse me. I've got a bit of sniffles. Been working myself a lot, adding in these extra hours of advertising my live stream, doing the live stream, business work. I'm exhausted. I'm an old guy. What do you want? See all the white hair? I'm older than I look, and I think I look pretty old. But anyway, so what are virtues, right? We know what are not virtues. Traits. Whoop-de-fucking-doo-dah. Ooh, he got blue eyes. Oh, he's so pretty. You can't base a relationship on that, right? So why are virtues important? Well, because those are the things that we found throughout history make a stable foundation for a relationship. So let's talk about, for example, honesty, right? The reason that virtues are important is because if they are antithetical to each other, if you're a liar and I'm honest, but we're not too compatible, right? And of course, this is the same kind of thing that applies on a cultural level, right? I mean, if your virtue is you stole a Snickers bar from my store, I'm going to whack your fucking head off. And my virtues are, that's wrong, that's evil, you're a murderer. I don't think we're going to be having lunch together anytime soon, let alone living together and having kids together and having a long, meaningful, stable life. Okay. Virtue's very important, right? All right, they're the traits about us that make us who we are. Combinatively speaking, they all together are what we are. They interact with each other. They're very important. They are who and what we are. They're the things we value. They're the things that give us value and quality in this world. And they call to others. That's why like attracts like, right? But oftentimes people ignore these things in favor of those things which don't matter, like women looking for tall men and men looking for chicks that look a specific way and all that. Of course, that's for men, that's really a biological matter. Women, insofar as looking for looks and height and, all these spurious things, that's not in their genetic makeup. That's not in any way, shape, or form biological in nature. That actually goes against women's makeup, generally speaking. And if you just go back 50, 60 years, women looked for virtue in men and they look for very specific virtues, right? Like responsibility. Being a responsible person, that's a virtue. Taking responsibility for your actions, for your mistakes. Being responsible, okay? That's a virtue, and that's what they looked for, because those virtues would mean that he would be a stable provider. Now that they've got the state and big daddy government, I don't need a man. You do, it's just you're getting the money indirectly, so you don't have to tolerate his crap, what you call his crap, right? How nice for you. Meanwhile, society dies, and the culture dies, and we're not having enough kids to replace the people that are dying off. But anyway, so let's go over a list of what I think are the main virtues. I mean, they're important virtues for me, and they're kind of the biggies, right? So kindness. I think kindness is important. I think that it's important to be kind. I've met too many nasty cold cunts who associate being cold with strength. It's very interesting that women have this caricature in their mind. As an aside, they have this caricature in their mind of what they believe men to be like, which is nothing like what men are actually like. And of course, many of them were raised by single mothers as well, who had a lot of man hate because they had a mommy who had a lot of man hate, and they had a mommy. The mommy had a mommy who was a freaking hippie who had been taught that you don't want to be a housewife. Being a housewife is oppressive and evil. But my mother looks very happy. She's always says she's happy. She's lying. She's got internalized misogyny, right? False mind, yeah, right? False consciousness. She's not aware that she's being oppressed, but she's being oppressed. Oh, okay, I don't want to get into that situation. So these women really, they don't know what men are like. They've got this caricature, I need to be cold and emotionless. I need to be cruel and nasty. That means I'm strong, right? Because men are strong, and I want to be just like a man. Yeah. And I want men to be just like me, so I don't have to, in any way, shape, or form, compete with them on a level playing field, right? So turn the men into women and turn the women into men. Yeah, okay. It's amazing. If masculinity is so toxic, why do women want to be more like men? But, they don't have a clue. They don't have a freaking clue. So kindness is very important. Yeah, absolutely. Compassion. I mean, yeah, compassion is important to a certain extent, right? But usually with women, it kind of goes overboard. I mean, let's be honest here. Women are generally speaking slaves to their emotions. We all know that. And you women out there watching, come on, you know it too. Don't bullshit us. Don't bullshit yourself. You know that you're a slave to your emotions, right? And so things used to be that men and women helped balance each other out, right? I mean, women were too emotional, but they had the man's logic and critical thinking to kind of balance out their emotionality. Now, you don't really have that. Women are encouraged to embrace feelings over facts, even though, what exactly do you have feelings about? To have feelings, there has to be a thing that you're feeling about. What if that thing is not true? See, this is where facts are important, but if you don't reach a point where you realize that to have feelings about something, you first have to know if it's true or not, well, then I don't want anything to do with you, because you're living in a world of solipsism. You're living in a world of relativism, idealism. I don't want to deal with any of that shit. So, yeah, compassion, but tempered with common sense. Oh, boy. There's not too much of that left anymore in men, let alone women. But these are things that I value. These are things that I consider to be virtues, because guess what? They're virtues in me as well. One of the things that you're going to realize about what attracts us to other people is, generally speaking, we're going to be attracted to the things in them that exist within us, right? So if you're a fucked up, dysfunctional person, you're more likely to attract fucked up, dysfunctional people. Especially, and you might not be a fucked up, dysfunctional person to the extent of the person you attract. But, I mean, for example, you could have somebody that's a good guy, great guy, but he's lacking in self-knowledge, and he's dysfunctional in the fact that, he might be insecure, and so he draws a psycho broad, and he's so insecure that, he puts up with her shit and lets himself get taken advantage of. Lots of situations like that. But when those kind of situations happen, when you've got an okay guy but a crazy broad, generally speaking, that kind of pairing happens because the guy, and the woman, of course, too, because if she had what I'm going to talk about next, she wouldn't be a crazy, fucked up broad, or at least she would have tried to do something about it. They don't have self-knowledge. Okay? So self-knowledge is very important. So if you don't know who you are, then you don't know the virtues that you value, and hence you're not going to be consciously aware enough of your own virtues to know what to look for in other people, or to be correctly attracted. And yes, there is such a thing as being correctly attracted. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know yourself, then you're going to be attracted to the wrong things in other people. when what you really are supposed to be attracted to is virtue. And you would be attracted to the virtues in others if you knew what your own virtues were. And a lot of the times we are attracted to virtues in others that we don't recognize in ourselves, but they do exist. And on a fundamental level, we recognize them in others. But we would be able to recognize them with a much greater level of clarity if we had a higher level of self-knowledge. I know what all my virtues are, and I know what all my flaws are too. I know myself inside and freaking out. Most people don't. Most people don't. And that's part of what philosophy is about. Not only finding the truth about the world, but about yourself. So, and some of these virtues, I have to admit, they're things that I value. There might be things that you value which are different, but these are generally speaking the kind of virtues that, functional, normal people all value. Like, for example, realism and practicality. Somebody who lives in the real world, somebody who's a realist, somebody who isn't a pie-in-the-sky, meathead, pinhead moron, with their head always in the fucking clouds and never living in the here and now. Now, if that's how you are, you're likely to be attracted to somebody just like that, and you can both live your pie-in-the-sky, yuppie, hippie existence, and you can go travel to Morocco or ride around on your fucking bikes until somebody from ISIS pulls over, runs you over, and chops your fucking head off. Okay, you can do that. All right. But for me, I value realism. And I value people that are practical. Practicality is important, right? Practical person isn't going to, engage in activities that detract from their quality of life, that harm them. They're not going to go out and spend all their money on a fucking handbag and then they can't pay their rent, right? Empathy. Now, I think empathy is very important. I have oodles and oodles of empathy, and I guarantee you I have more fucking empathy than the vast majority of waymen out there. Now, my empathy is very focused, and it's very disciplined, and it's something that I can invoke and revoke at will, okay? It's part of how I solve problems. It's part of how I do thought exercises. It's part of how I work through logic chains and use deductive, reductive reasoning. Empathy, it's important, in my opinion. You have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of other people and understand their point of view. Now, you don't actually have to be able to do that, but if you want to be able to relate to others in any meaningful way, it's kind of important. And of course, I'm not going to say we all have empathy because there's psychopaths, sociopaths out there, and they have, no empathy. A lot of them are just good at acting, but they don't have that capacity. But the majority of people do, to a certain extent, some more than others. And believe it or not, women don't have very much empathy. That's a myth spread by feminist propaganda, okay? Fuck. Nothing worse than lukewarm coffee. God damn it. And honesty. And by the way, I'm a very honest person. Sometimes too honest. Sometimes too honest, maybe to my own detriment. I have to be a little more prudent. That's something I need to work on, prudence, yes. Nobody's perfect. But I think honesty is important, right? Be honest even if it leads to your death. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, the old fucking knight's oath. I don't necessarily believe in that, right? You have to be prudent. You have to, exercise honesty in a very calculating way. You can't be too honest, right? You could really do yourself harm, and that's not too smart. But I think honesty is important. But I do think it's also important to be conscious of the feelings of others and to essentially be aware of what might or might not hurt another person's feelings. Now, I know if you followed my show for any period of time, you know that I don't really give much of a fuck about what people think or feel on this show anyway. But if I have people in my life, friends, I don't really have any family left, they're all fucking dead, bunch of blobs that ate too much fucking fatty, greasy fucking Italian food, even though they're not fucking Italian. So they killed themselves early, right? But, I have friends, and these are people that I value in my life. So, of course, I'm going to respect boundaries. Of course, I'm going to be a little more courteous, a lot more courteous, depending on how good a friend they are. But I'm definitely going to be prudent. I'm definitely going to be conscious and aware of what effect too much honesty could have, So critical thinking, right? I think that's important. It's an important practice to be able to think critically and analyze the effect that one's words might have on others. That's, a lot of that has to do with being empathetic. And it's an important trait to me. I think it very important trait. Real empathy, not the phony empathy that most women these days practice, right? Where they just say they have empathy, but they're just empathizing with other women and nobody else. So, self-discipline and a work ethic. I think self-discipline is something that's highly underrated. Not enough people practice it, right? Not enough people practice self-discipline, self-control, having a good temperament, right? I mean, too many women, too many people in general, I think these days are ruled by their emotions. I mean, you got that case at Berkeley, or that nut job 28-year-old guy, I don't remember his name, beat the crap out of that poor kid because he had a MAGA hat on. He's going to jail now, I hope. But, he just freaked out. You got a MAGA hat. I have free reign to beat the crap out of you and, castigate you in public. And nobody's going to stop me because I am promoting the politically correct narrative. And you just lost it. No self-control at all. He's not very virtuous, by the way. Yeah. But hey, ladies, if any of you out there like guys that will beat you up, that's the guy to get with, right? You got a lot of wacko broads out there that send fucking letters to serial killers in prison and shit. Yeah, they really don't. Those chicks don't understand virtue. Not at all. You're looking for the wrong qualities, ladies. Honor, right? Be honorable. Don't do to others what you would want done to you, right? Live an honorable life. Live your life in a way that you can respect yourself. Okay, I think that's very important. And having a strong moral foundation, not just this bullshit morality where people get on fucking soapboxes and run around preaching about the current political narrative and how if you don't adhere to that, you're an evil, racist, Islamophobe, homophobic person. Oh, boy. Coffee gives me gas, but I made this cup especially weak, so hopefully it doesn't kick in and have me belching the whole fucking time. So I think understanding the source of morality, which is well-being, and have a good understanding of morals and ethics, that's not something that comes overnight, okay? I mean, small children have a very, very basic understanding of things like fairness, but complex moral ideas and principles, those take a long time to develop. And a lot of people don't have a very good understanding of what their moral code even is, or what constitutes morality. So something I value as a virtue is someone who has a well-developed sense of morality, who at the very least understands what the golden rule is. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These are the things I value. And loyalty. I mean, come on. How many of you out there have had a friend that the moment things got bad for you, especially like when you were a kid, like this really pissed me off. Like I would have friends, right? And then you did something or you said something that went against the narrative, the grain. We had those even fucking 35, 40 years ago. And all your friends would suddenly, poof, vanish. Because you said something or did something that was maybe a little odd or maybe went against the, the PC narrative or whatever. How often can you really count on people to be loyal? How often can you count on people to remain loyal even when it's difficult? I mean, it's easy to be loyal when life is easy and everyone approves of your choices and there's no adversity and there's no pushback. But, when the going gets tough, the tough, they stick around and they're loyal. And meanwhile, the rest, you'll find out who your real friends are when times get hard. And real friends will stick by you, okay? And so will real life partners. Even if things are hard, that's why those old marriage vows, which nobody sticks to anymore because they're incentivized not to, meaning women are incentivized not to, because they divorce you, they'll get all your shit, so why are they going to stick around? Love, cherish, honor, obey, till death do us part, through good times and bad, hardship. Oh, no, not anymore. Things get hard. I just pack up and leave. I get everything. Yeah. That's not loyalty, okay? Yeah. So it's too easy to be disloyal these days, right? And too many people don't understand what a quality loyalty is. I mean, how much it says about your character if you remain loyal. And I'm big about loyalty, man. I mean, if I'm a friend, it doesn't matter what you're going through. I'm going to be there for you thick and thin. It doesn't matter how difficult things might be. It can't put too much of a strain on my life, right? I mean, let's be reasonable, right? You can't expect to be sleeping in my fucking house if you're... Oh, but maybe, I don't know. It depends on how good a friend you are, right? And what happened. I mean, if your house fucking burnt down or something, it's no fault of your own. Yeah, I'd probably let you sleep on my fucking couch or something. But if you burnt your own house down because you got drunk and you were smoking and, you burnt it down because you were a dumb fucking drunk who passed out drunk with a cigarette in your mouth, I'm going to be less likely to want to house you, especially if you're a fucking drunk, right? Loyalty, of course, has its limits, but that's one of the virtues I value, and courage, right? Because it's not easy to be honest. It's not easy to be loyal. It's not easy to be honorable in this world. And sometimes it takes real courage to stand up to the forces that be who may be telling you to do the exact opposite because it's good for them. Probably bad for you, but your life will be easier. Yeah, just because something's easy doesn't necessarily mean it's good, okay? But people oftentimes take the easy way out, right? They get divorced because things get hard when their life would have been much better if they had stayed and worked out their problems. But it's easier just to leave, right? It would take more courage to stay and work through your problems and face your fears and solve the issues that you had in your marriage. But, it's easier to go, right? The coward's way is the way of ease. But the courageous person, they don't necessarily give up and quit, right? So I think courage is very important. Not to mention grace, right? How well do you handle yourself? How do you carry yourself in life, right? I mean, you're constantly bitching and moaning. Woe is me! Yeah, you're graceless. Okay. Weather the storms with poise. Have grace. Don't be a fucking whiny baby pussy, all right? People will respect you far more if you have grace. Too many women lack that, right? Too many people in general lack that. Running around, professional activists, bitching and moaning about things that only exist in a decadent first world country. Meanwhile, people in fucking Zimbabwe and Uganda, they're fucking digging around in the dirt 16 hours a day, hoping to find a little nugget of gold that they won't get to keep, by the way. Ingesting all these nasty chemicals that are used to get that fucking gold, and they're going to be dead by the age of 20. You think they're worrying about this bullshit? Do I have equality? The patriarchy! Get the fuck out of here. Have some fucking grace. Jesus Christ. Life is hard. Deal with it. Accept it for what it is. Don't constantly be moaning and groaning and bitching about your horrible lot in life, which is total crap. You have it easy. You're all privileged. Talk about male privilege. Get the fuck out of here. If men were so privileged, and there was this fucking patriarchy that you women are constantly bitching and moaning about, you wouldn't be able to bitch and moan about it. The patriarchy wouldn't let you, you idiots. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Yeah. I think self-respect is important. All right. I mean, self-respect is very important. I mean, if you don't like yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, how can you expect other people to like you, or even want to take care of you, or even deal with you, right? I mean, like fat people. Come on. What about that Tess Holiday broad, right? Sitting there in bed eating a whole goddamn cake with a big fucking tub of ice cream. Yeah, she got a lot of self-respect. Heart's gonna explode before she's fucking 40. Yeah, but body positivity's great. No self-respect. No self-respecting person would treat themselves that way. Jesus Christ. Behemoth. Good Lord. Have some self-respect. Have some dignity. Right? What kind of dignified person would put on a fucking bathing suit when they weigh 400 pounds and walk around as if they should have grace and they shouldn't have any shame, and look at me, I'm so great and wonderful, I'm going to show off my big fat belly and my gigantic saggy tits that are bigger than my head. Are you kidding? Get the fuck out of here. It's crazy, right? The world that we live in. No dignity, no grace, no self-respect. But I'm supposed to respect you anyway, even though you haven't earned my respect. The way you treat yourself screams to the world, don't respect me. But, of course, it's the new normal. Up is down, left is right. Lack of self-respect means you should be respected, right? I don't have to do all the hard work to respect myself. I'm just going to lay that off on everybody else. Yeah, typical socialist thinking, right? I don't want to have to make a living and work for myself. Everybody else should do the work for me. Yeah. Including myself. They should respect me even though I don't respect myself. Yeah. See the lack of virtue in the world? No wonder it's so hard to see it these days. It's hardly there in anybody. That being said, even with the lack of virtue existing in the world, yeah, there's some needles in the haystack. There are some people that have actual virtues. They just stumbled upon the right formula, acquired them by accident without even knowing it, living upright lives without even thinking about it. They acquired and developed virtue. So such people exist. But the first thing you have to do before you're even able to identify these people, let alone form relationships, form bonds with them, is know thyself. Know thyself. It's really that simple, because what love is, in essence, it's about the love we have for ourselves. We value the virtues in others that we possess within ourselves. So, love, in essence, is one of the most selfish acts, and there's nothing wrong with selfishness. Not correct, right selfishness, which there is such a thing, absolutely, positively. And love for others is all about love of self. If you love yourself, that love extends to others who share the virtues that you possess. That's how love works, and that's how relationships work, and that's how you form stable relationships and stable bonds with others, by being able to identify those people who share the same virtues you have, thereby making the most compatible match, both with friends and with life companions. Which, by the way, is one of the reasons why people are so bad these days at locating such people that would make long-time commitments. Now, number one, they value things that are not virtues, and number two, they do not have the self-knowledge required to know what their virtues are, if they have any at all. Hence, number three, they cannot locate others who share what virtues they may possess, if any. So, that is why virtue is so important, and why it is very different from traits, which are simply things that are accidents of birth.